what was your response when you heard that they wanted to take your photos and say, let's make a movie that captures this uh, this aura essentially?
Um, Interestingly, I didn't know that until I was already involved in the movie.
Oh,
How about that?
that is interesting.
So what you're talking about is an incident that came 3 months after the director was in my house looking at my photos. And what happened was Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer, the two hotshot producers, were talking to Kenny Loggins right by the tax trailer at Miramar as I was just happened to be walking out. And like I said, I've already been on the movie for 3 months, so they knew me very well. They knew who I was. And Kenny Loggins walks away, and I realize who he is by the long hair. And so I get up to Don and Jerry, and they're just starting to shoot the shit with me. And they go, "Do you even know the story about why we're doing this movie?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you know that magazine article you did in California Magazine?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, Don had a toothache, and we went to the dentist. And I found out later they do everything together. They buy Ferraris together, Mustangs together, Levi's together.
Okay.
And because they don't want to miss a meeting. So if they're both busy doing doctor and dental and shopping stuff, then they'll both be available for the meeting. And they had a table that was made out of a tree. So it was like a 15-foot giant table, and they each sat, and they each took like 7.5 feet of the desk. It was pretty cool up there. So they said, "We're in the dentist's office," and Jerry's telling me, I opened this magazine, and there's this double spread photo, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the reflections in this guy's visor, and I'm looking at the clouds, and I go, "This is Star Wars on Earth. This is our next movie." And I plop it on Don's lap, and the rest is history. He took it, and now we're making the movie. And he went on to explain. He said, "Now you see the cover of this magazine?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's the reason we're making the movie and not someone else." And I said, "What do you mean?" And thankfully, with my journalism education, we had a lot of marketing and advertising along with journalism. He said, "See this picture of the woman who was like this, going, ah." That's basically telling you at a newsstand, do not pick this magazine up. Do not open it up. Do not look at it. He said that whoever did that's an idiot. If they would have put anything of your photos on the cover, people would have picked it up and said, "Ooh, let me see more about airplanes." And they would have saw the story about Top Guns, Yogi and Possum, two guys that were in my VF-1 squadron with me, and they would have made the movie. So I thought that was really interesting from the producer's point of view, that he already calculated that the reason he got to see it is because they picked the wrong cover. So I thought that was pretty cool insight. But he blamed me for them making the movie, and I didn't know that until I was almost done shooting it. Didn't realize. Because Viper, Pete Pettigrew, took 2 years just to try and get him to change the title from Top Guns to Top Gun, the name of the school. The magazine article was called Top Guns because it was following Yogi,
the pilots, the aviators,
to Top Guns.
The individuals, basically.
Yeah, the individuals through there. They're the Top Guns going through Top Gun. And Viper and all the rest of us wanted a movie about the school, not Top Guns. So they did that for 2 years and talked about 2 or 3 ramp strikes that they had to cut out and whole bunch mid-airs they had to cut out. They were really going for a lot of, exploding F-14s. I didn't know any of that. So they had done all of that and were scouting for the movie when I first ran into anybody from the movie. And then the director comes into my office when I was OPSO in '85, and he brings out a wad of cash and he starts unfurling it, and he goes, "We just came from the O Club. Those are all your pictures, right? They said Heater took all these pictures." And I said, "Yeah, I did. Put that money away. Don't ever pull money out with an active duty person." And he goes, "Oh, we want the pictures. I just want to buy them." And I said, "Don't worry, I'll give you the slides." And he goes to this purple, pink-haired, lots of piercings. Yeah, lots of body piercings. Get his address. So I give her my address right away, and he just tells me I'll be there at 7:00 tonight. And I'm like, okay. So I call up Kay and I go, "Hey, we got some Hollywood director going to show up at our house at 7:00. And he comes over. I mean, on the minute. She had no idea what to prepare, so she baked chocolate chip cookies. So we're in my living room eating cookies with a Hollywood director who's, into sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So what do you think we're drinking with those cookies?
Bourbon.
Yeah.
There you go.
Of course.
Nice.
Okay, good.
Milk and cookies. And he's telling me about the hunger. And he says, "Yeah, this movie's going to be testosterone-fueled tension. It's going to be in the bowels of the carrier. It's going to be dark and moody." And I'm thinking, man, I'm not going to help with this picture if that's what it's like. And this is only the second time I met Tony, and that day it was only for 3 minutes. It's like, get out of here with that money. And so I go, Tony, we should go upstairs on my light table and take a look. So we get up there, and he's got the loop, and he's looking at all my slides, and you can start to see the wheels turning. And I said, "You see how pretty the blue is, and the white puffy clouds, and the gorgeous airplanes? Like maybe you can see there." And I said, "I don't think you're going to do the bowels of the carrier on this. I don't think that's what you want." And he goes, "You're right." He goes, "I'm going to come back. I'll be back in 2 days. We're going to go through all your slides. I'm going to pick some out for the movie, and we'll go from there." So he had told me all about The Hunger. And if you haven't seen that, it's David Bowie, Catherine Deneuve, vampires, lots of silhouettes, and it's almost all blue and white. The way he shot the scene with Charlie and Maverick, remember that? They call it, the kids that are my fans, they call it the blue lizard tongue kissing scene that they fast forward through. He wanted the whole movie like that.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. So
he didn't.
He got the hunger part in that scene where they were doing it. It was kind of silhouette-y and blues. And but he came back in a couple of days, like he said. He picked out about 30 pictures that he made prints of, and he mounted them on styrofoam. And he put about 24 of them in the movie. So when you see all those pictures in the carrier and in Top Gun and the hallway and the rag, those are all my pictures.
Yeah.
And of course, he blew up the one that's behind me, and he used that in the bar scene too. So when me and Kelly,
it's like a massive picture in the bar, right?
Yeah. So me and Kelly sat in front of that for a good 2 days while we were filming that scene. So he takes all of those pictures, and we talked about this girl that was going to be the love interest, was an enlisted woman who was a gymnast who made extra money by dancing at the O Club.
What?
and Maverick falls in love with her.
Oh,
And
kidding
I
me.
said,
God.
I love
said
Leekster's
that-
quiet laugh here. This is good.
yeah,
Oh.
I'm like, that's not going to work, Tony. He goes, why
No.
not? I said,
No.
for one thing, officers don't date enlisted. It's a no-no. You just cannot do it. There's the chain of command and all that stuff. And he said, well, it's just a movie. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, not going to happen. Navy's not going to let you do it. Never mind me. And apparently Viper and some other people said, nope. They nixed that and the ramp strike and some other stuff. So they happened to see Christine Fox walking around the base. She's a real person. She's as tall as Kelly McGillis and just as pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I met her. She came and gave us our radar class.
Yeah. Some people would say
Yeah.
she's maybe prettier. And
she's a nice lady too, and very intelligent.
But not an
wonderful.
astrophysicist.
I've known her forever. I knew her when she moved back here, took over CNA, and then became the highest ranking woman in the whole Pentagon.
Oh, wow.
So they see Christine and they go, whoa, well, let's get her in the movie. And what does she do? And so that's how they got the idea to make Charlie what Charlie was in the movie.
Yeah.
Just by seeing her and not being able to use the gymnast dancer at the O Club and listen.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Because there's so much cheese in there, and it makes you cringe as a pilot. Even a guy who before I even flew in the Navy, I was like, oh, I can't believe they said that or this, and you. But you have to suspend your reality because the cinematography of the flying scenes is just ridiculous. It's so incredible, and I believe it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they use the stuff with that Kevin Costner movie where they had the F-14 flying? Was that part of that same footage that they shot for Top Gun or not?
Kevin Costner movie.
Boy, is there a big story there. Kevin Costner did Revenge. So Tony and I became very good friends. I mean, he had me up on the set of Beverly Hills Cop. He introduced me to all the actors and especially Bridget Nielsen. And we just had a great time. And he would tell me about...
Talk about tall ladies. She's a tall one, right?
Very tall. True Romance. He was calling me up saying, you won't believe what Brad Pitt did today, and all these crazies that he had on the set of True Romance, which is a great movie. You got to watch that. There is a cast of characters in that movie, all famous, all crazy, and Tony had to corral them. So in that post Top Gun period, he's making Revenge, and it's got Kevin Costner. So I get another call from him, and I think he's going to have me up to the set for that. No. Can I borrow your flight suit and your boots and your glove? I go, what in the world do you need that for? And he goes, well, it's not really in the script, but I'm going to put a little scene in where Kevin Costner's a pilot for his backstory. So in the beginning of that movie, he's going to have his last flight, and I want to use your gear. So I said, okay. And I gave him the gear, and he gave it back to me. And when I see that movie, I see Kevin Costner in my flight suit.
There's your flight suit.
But the opening scene is this F-14 just shredding through Fallon or wherever, and it's just awesome. And did they shoot that with Top Gun, or was that shot at a totally different time?
Well, totally different time. That's why, he'd already been through a couple other movies and called me out of the blue for that one.
So that was just additional F-14 footage that somebody went out there and shot, huh? Because it's really nice work.
I need to see that.
He probably, I can't remember the other stuff. I just remember the cockpit scene, and having done all the cockpit scenes for Top Gun, I was right there, like 3 feet from Tom's nose and whoever was sitting in the fake airplane.
Sure.
And it was me, the camera, the director of photography behind the camera, and Tony Scott in the other chair on the other side of the lens. and I'm feeding them the lines that I had just written.
Tony like the tactical banter kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah, they didn't have any of that. Yeah. He gave me a whole bunch of film on the reel-to-reel thing that you hand do, and you see it on a small screen. And he said, take this guy back there and match some dialogue to these scenes. Well, the guy was Warren Scarron, who was a writer, and he was on his way to a movie in Texas, and he did not want to be there. And when he looked at the film, he goes, I have no idea what I'm looking at. He does dialogue for like the love interest stuff. He gets behind characters. He didn't know what to write. And I said, well, I'm a pilot and I know what to write. And so he grabbed the legal pad and the pencil, and then I would look at the film, and I looked at the whole thing, and I went, well, you can't do it from beginning to end because it's just a hodgepodge. So there's no story there. So I had to make up a story in my mind that could cover almost every tactical word we've ever used in dialogue, you know, from bingo to you name it.
Right.
And so I'm saying, all right, Maverick's going to say this, Goose is going to say that, Kruger will say this. And I just go right down the list, and he writes a name and everything I said. And we fill up 3.5 pages of legal pad. He didn't have a clue what he's writing down. He just writes down everything I said. So we walk out, Tony grabs the tablet, reads a few of the lines. He goes, hot shit, in his British accent. And I would always tell him, Tony, it's shit hot. It's not hot shit. And I try to be discreet about it, but he would always say hot shit. He gives me the tablet, says, sit there, put this headset on with a microphone, and read the lines to Goose and Maverick that you wrote. So I'm like, okay. So they're in there, and there's guys making the cockpit tilt, and the camera's here, and I'm reading them all their lines. And one of them was when they go by the tower and do the aileron roll. And I said, you know, Tony, nobody's going to believe that was an aileron roll. And he said, well, you know, that's why we spin the camera at 360 degrees. And I said, yeah, but that's not how it looks in the cockpit. He goes, what do you mean? I said, can you get me some fishing leader? He snaps his fingers. Somebody runs off. I mean, within 60 seconds, I had a stick with fishing leader tied to it, and I reach in, I tie the hose of Maverick's mask. While Tom's sitting there, I tie this on, and I say, Tom, I'm just going to lift this up when you're inverted, because that's what would happen. And so we go back, the camera's on a gimbal, right? They're sitting there level in a studio in downtown Hollywood. And so I'm looking at the camera, and I'm holding the string above it. And when it goes upside down, I kind of make the oxygen mask move around weightless.
Nice.
And it looks so good and so real in the movie. And people don't understand, we didn't shoot anything in the cockpit in a real jet. And there was
the cameras were just too big, right? There
were no CGIs.
Yeah.
No, the cameras were small enough. The pilots were green.
Oh, okay.
Their faces were so pale or green or full of puke. You couldn't
use it.
Nobody, they didn't get an ounce of film, not one frame of film that they could use. Even though
they tried, it just was useless. They tried, it was just useless.
They tried, it was useless. They said, forget that.
Okay.
We set up everything up north, and that's how we filmed it.
So, okay, I have one, if I may, permit me one question that's kind of a fanboy question. As a Rio, there's one tactical line in there that I've always kind of wondered about. Was the hook actually a tactical move that you used? So
we did when I was in the rag.
I think they said something like, "Yeah, we'll hook them." Yeah, we'll I don't know, whatever the one. That was actually a tactical move. I never learned it. We never did it. So I'm like, what is that?
When I went through as a student through Top Gun in 1975, remember we talked about my vision?
Yeah.
So I told my wingy, I'm going to get out 3.5, 4 miles. You're going to lose me. You're going to no, don't worry. And then I'm going to go acute. So you eyeball them and I'll hook them. And that was the tactic.
Okay, just to set up for audience here, you're saying like your nose on, so your wingman's nose on, you're way out here, you're doing this.
I'm way out there, and I'm acute.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm like a half to 3/4 of a mile ahead of the eyeballer, who's going to fly by the merge and ID him. And so by the time he IDs him, when most people start to fight and everything gets all screwed up and nobody gets killed or the good guys get killed, when we would do it the way I had it set up, I would hook them and it would be A4, Fox 2 in the A4, you know, as we went by. And then we'd be 2v1 on his wingman right away, because at the merge, he was dead.
Okay.
And they didn't have forward quarter missiles for us. We had to ID them, so the sparrow didn't work. So we were inside sparrow range by the time we ID'd them. And it could have been a T-38, an A4. It could have been anything. An F5.
So the tactic, they called it when I was a RAG student, is a VID hook. It was a standard tactic that we taught back then.
Really?
Yeah, because the war hasn't started. You got a bogey out there. It's not necessarily a bandit. They go intercept this guy. You're in combat spread. The wingman gets wide and acute. So when the lead goes by the guy, he IDs him. The other guy's already got 90 degrees on him. And so as soon as he IDs him, he can shoot him. That's what.
So you were setting this up at about 10 miles, right?
No, like a standard intercept, like out at 100 miles. I mean, you're already like you're at 100. You could be at a 60-mile set, whatever. But it's a VID. It's a VID scenario.
Okay.
Yeah. You're in combat spread until you get to about 20 to 15 miles when you have a clue what you're up against, and then by then you know who's got the big picture, who's got the good lock or track wall scan, who knows where everybody is, who's going to be the eyeball. And then when somebody says, I got the lead, then you know you're the hooker. And so you start moving forward, higher or lower, depending on what the scenario and the weather and the clouds are. And you get ready to hook. But people that used to hook from the beam position where you're only a mile and a half apart.
Can't do it. Yeah.
They can't do it because they got themselves out of the fight. So you had to merge with two fighters kind of pointing the same direction. The bad guy goes by you and his wingman's got angles on both of you now. And
that's a good point.
One of you out. I fixed it by just geometry. I said, I'm going way out in front. Nobody ever taught me that tactic. That was just something me and my VF-11 wingman did. I never flown with him before Top Gun. We just got paired up, and I said, "This is what I'm going to do," and it worked so well. We just kept doing it.
Was the hooker not keeping even a twizz lock so that there was no raw hit on the bogey?
In F4s, it was kind of simple. In F14s, we deferred to the Rios. Whatever the Rios wanted to do, whatever they needed to do to make sure we knew. Because sometimes you go in a 2V unknown, and just because you have two out there doesn't mean that's it. So people have to, there's three. Oh, there's four, you know? So that was the Rio's job. You do what you need to do.
Yeah.
In the F4, you were lucky to have one out of the two airplanes even have a radar.
Well, yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's true.
Oh. Well, thank you for enduring my little bit of fanboy. I've literally wondered that since the first time I saw the movie when I was 14. I mean, okay, maybe not.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that wondered that, you know. The thing about the hard deck is what always drove me crazy, you know.
What, in the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to take a lot of license because it's so much more dramatic when you can see the ground.
Yeah,
sure.
But having them say these crazy things, you know, and you think you're not only below the hard deck, which is a kill. In the Air Force, that's called a floor kill.
Box kill.
And we kill it. What do you call it in the Navy? Ground kill. We used to call it a
rocks kill.
Rocks kill. Yeah, that's right. It was a rocks kill. And you could drive a guy down there and get a rocks kill. And it was like you won the fight.
Totally valid.
You know, just because it was a TKO doesn't mean the guy isn't knocked out and you won the fight. So yeah, that's what we did. And in the movie, they destroyed that because they had to make everything close. So even Fox 2 Sidewinder shots look like guns kills because they needed everybody in the picture. He tried it the normal way in the beginning. It was the most boring thing you ever saw. You'd watch one airplane go in and out of the frame and just disappear into a little dot, and then another airplane come back. And then you have to tell them in the dailies, yeah, that's a good dogfight. That's a normal, here's what he's doing. And then everybody realized, especially me as a photographer, that ain't going to work.
No.
So everything had to be compressed and slowed down. So I shot almost all the overwater footage, right? So when they went up to Fallon, they had big cameras on mountains and air-to-air cameras. But for landing, for the fighting over water, for the missile shoot, they had me in an A4 and F-14 with a big Aeroflex camera, reel to reel, and I'm shooting all of that stuff. So no CGI at all. So the air-to-air stuff that you saw and you liked, a lot of that was the Fallon with long telephoto lens getting pictures of them maneuvering, and Clay Lacey's jet doing some.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
So the air-to-air stuff that you were shooting over water, was that much of a ramp up to be able to use? I mean, I'm assuming you probably hadn't done that kind of shooting before. Was that something to learn?
Yeah, I never used a reel-to-reel camera before. And the first time I used it, when I got up to altitude, the dry air from the air conditioning made the film break.
Oh, so no.
I'm on my first mission.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Which I think was a missile shoot. I've got a full load and the film broke. So, from the Rollums, nah, you're too young. We had reel-to-reel Rollums back in the day.
Stories.
So the ensigns and the JGs had to have the Rollum right on time and have everything set up. So at least I had that experience. So I open it up knowing I'm going to expose whatever films between the sprockets, and I see all this windy stuff and all these teeth, and I see the broken film and I go, great, what am I going to do? So I reach up to my helmet and I peel off a little piece of reflective tape and I splice the film, close it up, click it. I feel it going, the counter's going. Okay, I'm in business. So we shoot a couple more missile shoots because I was the safety observer and the cinematographer and the Compex observer for that.
Wow.
In the back seat of a F-14 with Skolinka. You like Skull call signs?
Yeah.
Skull. He ended up being the president of the Airline Pilot Association.
Okay.
So Skull and a number of his squadron mates are flying me around in 213 and a couple other squadrons. I think I had 8 sorties in an F-14 and 3 in an A4. And so we'd shoot another missile shoot and it would break again and I'd take another piece off. So after I did all 8 missiles on that shoot, I never flew again on a camera mission with that camera without a whole bunch of Scotch tape all over my helmet.
Just ready to go.
I could peel that off and splice it just like that. Much better than reflective tape.
And that was 16 millimeter?
Why do I think it was bigger than that? Maybe it was 16.
32?
I guess it was 16. It was the same size as the in the Rollums in the ready room.
Okay.
And it was one of those Panaflex cameras, one of those fancy movie cameras, right?
Ariflex, A-R-R.
Ariflex, okay.
Very similar. Pretty heavy. Like when Bozo did the aileron roll, I had that giant camera in the back, you know, trying to do things. And and then the way you have to shoot everything, it's from every single point of view. So you got the airplane coming in to land when Cougar's having trouble, remember? So I gotta shoot that while he's getting aboard. And then Tom wants to join up, so I have to do that from that point of view. And then I have to be like God and get Tom and Cougar together, not just what Tom sees.
So I assume you guys were about like this doing that?
I hope not. No, it weren't that bad because remember, they're just trying to land. They're coming in like this. So we were dirty next to them, just far enough away for me to shoot, and the light kept changing. So I just did that over and over again until we got everything.
I always wondered on the post-production, did they do the filtering and post-production with the weird colors, you know, like they have like a gold color and they had
Tony kind of liked this one filter. He was in love with this one filter that was kind of goldish bronze at the top. So you put that on the lens and it makes everything look like a fabulous sunset. And he loved the golden tone.
I always thought those things were cheesy.
He told me to put it on for the missile shoot, and he told me to put it on for the carrier landing and for the fight. And I didn't do it. And we were pretty close by then, and that's still disobeying an order from a $15 million movie that he's got in his hands. So he knew I must have had a reason. So we talked about it. And I said, Tony, your filter is made for shooting straight and level. It's got to be parallel to the horizon. If I'm trying to do a dogfight and we're going up and down, you're going to make the audience dizzy with this gold horizon different from the real horizon. You're going to have two things spinning in different directions. And I said, I just couldn't put it on. I had it with me. I didn't want to put it on. And he said, well, you were straight and level for the missile shoots. You could have done it there. And I said, I know, but it just didn't seem right because I had to, if I went below the airplane to get the missile smoke and the plume, then the gold would cover the airplane and it would not be above it anymore. And I said, I didn't want to have to think about it. I just wanted to shoot. So he really wanted the gold. He loved that filter, but he was okay with it. And I did.
I'm so glad you explained this because there's some real discontinuity in the style of the film, you know, and the color palette between the different shots, even in the same scenes. Sometimes the way it's edited, it's
the way they edited that night landing. 2 hours passed.
Yeah.
I mean, the sun was up. It was a day sortie. By the time he gets aboard, it's dark. And
I've long wondered about that.
Yeah, it was very strange the way they did that. And strange the way they did the lines. Because when I'm doing those 3.5 pages of tactical dialogue that we eventually ended up in the movie, so I'm looking at a film, I see an F-14 getting real slow. So I say, okay, this would be a good time to say, I'm going ballistic, because everyone knows that if you say you're ballistic, then the guy chasing you uphill realize you have no aerodynamic control anymore and you're going to fall out of the sky any second, and you better get out of the way. So that was always a call in a many v many or any kind of dogfight, really. Mm-hmm. If somebody got ballistic, they would admit it. The F5 is ballistic, or I'm ballistic. That's all you had to say, because everyone knew who it was. Mm-hmm. And then you could get out of the way. So they turned it into something totally different. Like, oh boy, we're ballistic, and same with bingo. I figured, okay, it looks like he's out of fuel, knocking it off. All right, let me write this in here. And then they go, they kill a guy and splash one, and he's going, bingo, bingo. I'm going, that's not what bingo means. I can't believe you ruined my line. So there were a bunch of things in there that I wrote correctly for a different scene that they ended up using in the movie completely wrong. That's and funny. Didn't care. Just like Maverick's jacket. I said, Tony,
no kidding.
He's not a CB. He's not in the Marines. He hasn't had all these cruises. And he goes, you don't understand. I'm going for color and design. I'm looking for shapes and patterns. He said, I picked those out from hundreds of patches. They're just colors. Nobody's going to know what they're in. And I told him, I said, I don't know about that. Look at how much money Star Wars made on all the paraphernalia. I said, what if this jacket's a big deal? You're going to want a real jacket, because Rob knows what my jacket looks like. I took good care of that. And he didn't buy it. He said, no, not going to matter. Not going to matter. In fact, the one thing that he thought mattered that I think didn't, he didn't use some of my best missile shots when we were maneuvering the aircraft, and there were various attitudes and terrific smoke and going up and following it. And I said, what's wrong with that one? And he goes, it's not Tom's aircraft. And I'm like, there isn't going to be one person, even a Navy person, that watches this movie that can say what squadron shot that missile. Nobody's looking at that. And he wouldn't use some of the best shots because it wasn't the one that was doctored up to look like Maverick's aircraft. But he used others. And ironically, in Top Gun Maverick, they have the F-14 shooting a missile. Yeah. I shot that. They brought it out from the library.
I thought I had heard that they pulled out footage from 20 whatever years ago, 30 whatever years ago. That's awesome.
The same one from 36 years earlier that I shot.
That's so awesome.
How freaking cool is that?
Did you get a tagline in the second movie?
No. And I should have.
Yes.
I'm in the group photo too, where they're looking for who the heck was Tom or Maverick flying with back in the day. Oh, there's Goose. That's Rooster's dad. Well, that's all the actors and 6 extras, of which I was one in that photo.
Wow.
Oh, that's great. Now there's a great piece of trivia. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow, what an experience. I can't imagine. I mean, obviously it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing. Honestly, almost once in the Navy kind of thing, but it seems so surreal to have been on active duty and filming a movie. I mean, like it must have been a really totally surreal experience. I suppose at some point you went, am I really doing this?
It wasn't like that at all.
Okay.
No, it wasn't like that. It was almost like, this is a pain in the ass and it's digging into my flight time.
That's true.
And I'm tired, and I didn't like certain things. And Rob knows Jambo. Jambo even pleaded with me to try to get him to change some stuff. He was a Top Gun instructor at the time, and he's like, Heater, you're the only bro on this movie. You gotta get this out of there. He can't wear a cowboy hat in class and all this kind of stuff. So I'd have to I drew the line some places, but others I would tell the bros, I'd say, look, movies are visual. You have to have visual stuff. If we had 20 guys sitting around in khakis all looking identical, people are going to get bored really fast. You have to have things that people can look at. And Tony told me from the beginning it would be MTV fighter pilots. He wanted 3 seconds here, 5 seconds there, never more than one camera point of view for more than a few seconds. It would just keep changing. And everyone knows today that's how you capture eyeballs, whether you're online or in a movie. And now almost every movie is shot like that. They don't set a camera up and say action, and then you do a 3-minute play until they say cut, and then they set up the next scene. You know, that's how movies used to be shot. And then sometimes they'd give you a little point of view over here or there, but it was almost like a play that you shot from the audience. Tony was the one that changed everything. He made it MTV fighter pilots, rock and roll fighter pilots, as he called it. And it worked really good. I thought. Even though none of us thought it would be a good movie. And when he showed it, when they premiered it for the Top Gun Bros, we walked out of there, everybody had their heads down. They hated the dialogue, they hated the cheesiness, they hated almost everything about it. And Tony was frantic, and he came to me and he goes, "Oh my God, Heater, what's going on? They don't like it, they hate it." I said, "Tony, if we'd have made a movie about doctors in the emergency room and surgery, every doctor in the audience would stand up and go, 'That's bullshit. We would never say that. We would never do that.' But that's the doctors, because they know." I said, "People don't know what these Top Gun bros know. They're going to love this movie." And so when we debuted it in San Diego in a regular theater with the actors and a lot of fighter pilots, but hundreds of civilians that showed up, they were cheering, they were clapping. I mean, all the way through the movie, they loved it. And when that movie was over, no bros, no fighter pilots ever badmouthed the movie. Really.
You know, I'll be honest with you. You know, being an aviation enthusiast and, you know, a photography nerd, my biggest disappointment of all the, you know, I've watched them all, you know, 12 O'Clock High and, you know, Strategic Air Command and, you know, all the great aviation films. And you can tell when they're real airplanes or when there's BS, you know, models going around. And when I went to see Top Gun, I was blown away by the aerial photography, the absolute drama, how beautifully filmed those airplanes were flying around, that I could choose to ignore any part of the plot because I was completely in love with the film simply because I enjoyed the flying scenes so much. They were so cool watching those F-14s fly around, and it was
same
visceral.
here, LEEKSTER.
What's that?
Same here. Exactly the same here.
It's visceral because he put the sound together, and they gave you the music, and they had the smoke and the planes together, and the ground, you know, flying by the mesas out there or wherever. In fact, it just hit every emotion for me as far as like my love for airplanes. It was a 12 out of 10. And I was heartbroken because I had been turned down by the Navy. I was reapplying to get into the NAVCAT program. And when I saw the film, I thought, I'll never get in the Navy now. There's going to be 7 million applicants trying to be fighter pilots now. And I'm going to be outclassed. You know?
There were, yeah. Well,
luckily I got in before the rush.
Yeah.
Reagan.
Rat Willard was in the Black F5 a lot during the movie.
Oh, was that news? Okay. Yeah.
And he choreographed a lot of the dogfights that you're in love with. And they filmed some air to air. I didn't do that. I didn't go to Fallon because I had my day job as officer of the reg, and which was easy for me to film, by the way, because it was in our hangar or the next one over. And I would never go by the call sheet, because if you went by the call sheet, you'd show up at 7 o'clock and you'd wait 4.5 hours for them to begin shooting. So because they wanted me, they would call my number right before they were ready to shoot. And then I would just walk down, we'd do the scene, and I could go back. So I never missed the sortie in the rag while I was there. And we still got to film all that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
But the Rat Willard and the Top Gun guys that were at Fallon at the time had big, long telephoto lenses and camera crews shooting them from mountain peaks. So another reason why they were way below the deck was they were on the ground so the camera could be above them. And so a lot of those look like you're up there with them fighting, and it's a guy with a tripod and a big camera and a long lens on the top of one of the hills in Fallon looking down on the F-14s.
Oh, it's beautiful, and you get that speed rush because of the ground going by. It's awesome.
Exactly, the speed rush behind them, and so
the parallax.
Yeah, that's what did it. And I thought Kaczynski did good with Top Gun Maverick, but there they had a lot of CGI, whereas Top Gun 1 had none, and there they had 6 cameras in every F-18.
Yeah, in every cockpit. Yeah.
And the pilots were. I mean, the actors were the directors. They had to get the sun just right. They had to turn it on. Hangman had to wipe all the puke off his face because he puked almost every scene, whereas Monica Barbero, she never puked. So a lot of the other actors got sick, but Hangman, I can't think of his real name right now. Even
Glenn Powell?
Yeah, Glenn Powell did a lot of movies since then. The pilots that flew with him talked to me, and they told me, yeah, he would throw up every scene, and he would just wipe everything off, get ready, look great, do the next one, nail it, and then he'd throw up again.
That takes some mental fortitude.
It really does. That impressed me a lot. I thought that was pretty darn cool.
So, Heater, can I show you a shot? I shot this on one of my flights coming back from Iraq. That's my wingman. It's not going to focus right. Dang it. Oh well. Anyway.
What about your face?
But I want to tell you that you're. Yeah.
What about your face? I'll see it. Okay. Yeah. I've been. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, one of my favorites that I shot, and honestly, your kind of photography was what inspired me to do that. I got a little credit card camera. This is 2005, right before last Tomcat cruise. So 2005, it shot HD video, obviously good high quality digital, and I was trying basically in my mind capturing the same kind of thing you were capturing in the slightly more modern era. So it was to take it a little bit full circle here. The aviation experience isn't something that a lot of people have, but I wanted to try to capture a little bit of it to share with those who wouldn't. So thank you for helping me do that.
Great.
Yeah.
I'll add you to a very long list.
That's right.
That's right.
That's so good. Yeah. I mean, the cutting edge cost me my career, but it's stories like that make it worthwhile.
I think that's important for people to know too, that, you didn't make any money off of that book, which is crazy, right? I mean, it's insane.
Well, the money, I just picked 7 charities, not charities. Well, some of them were charities, but I mean, the Aviation Museum at Pensacola, the Aviation Museum in San Diego, and then there was a few things that were personal to me. So the Cancer Society, Navy Relief, Combined Federal Campaign, a bunch of things. I would get subscriptions to Navy magazines for all my squadron mates, and just say we're going to do that with a royalty. And so it worked out pretty good. And I didn't have any qualms about that. If I was a civilian, I would have made a ton of money. But I was already making money active duty, already flying. And, that, like I said, those pictures accumulated over 10 years to make the cutting edge.
Right.
10 years.
I don't think that, when you're shooting on film, like you said, you got one roll of film in your camera, it's got 36, or you have to reload it. And nowadays everybody's just shooting video and taking stills from that, or shooting a mega, digital photos. And like you said, the new Top Gun, they got 6 cameras. They're shooting digital the whole time. They've got basically unlimited, they can run the cameras probably 99% of the flight and not worry about it. I mean, you had to be very conservative with your film, especially shooting in a missile shoot. You got to get it. You get one shot. You got to get it right. They shoot the missile, and then you only have so much film. How much time was in one of those when you were shooting with that camera? I'm just curious.
Shooting with what camera?
That reel to reel.
Oh, because most of the shots are only 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I never ran out of film. So I landed, there was still film left to go.
Oh, that's cool.
So I never expended it all.
Wow.
So there was plenty of that.
I'll tell you guys a full circle story about Heater and I. After I first met him and I went to go visit him in Washington, D.C., he said, all right, tonight, once the wife gets put down, he goes, we're going to watch one of the movies, whether the original one or the new one. And I said, without a doubt, the first movie, right? And so watching that movie, sitting right beside Heater, there was a couple different flying scenes where we were going through, and I swear to God, I can tell you this from pure memory, every time one of those jets turned port, starboard, up, down, whatever, Heater's hand would move like he's moving the stick, and his left hand would move like it was on the throttle. And it did this through the whole entire movie. And watching that movie with that right beside me, watching that whole entire thing play out, that was the most full circle thing ever, because that's the reason that I joined the Navy in the first place, and why any of this stuff happened was what was experiencing right then, right there.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Good stuff.
What was that? That was 36 years later after you got.
Yeah, it was. It was.
And you're one of the very few people that saw my credit, because it's the very last thing in the credits. You have to get through everything. And then I said, I can't believe you would remember a aerial cinematographer or a aerial photographer, maybe it said.
Well, I wrote down every single one of your guys' name, every Tomcat pilot and Rio in that movie.
And he remembered.
And I said, I'm going to join the Navy and make my service worthy of all of those guys.
And he did. And there we were sitting in my theater room watching that movie.
That's great.
It was wild. It was wild.
I got to tell him, I said, now, every Navy guy knows how cold carriers are in internally, where especially all the equipment is, electronic equipment. I mean, we wore flight jackets. It was cold, 64 degrees. And yet everybody's sweating like crazy. So I explained to Rob that Tony is a visual guy and he loves specular reflectance. So if you can get a glossy shine on people's faces by taking a water sprayer and just going squirt before each scene, that's what he did with everybody. That's why everyone is so sweaty.
Everybody's covered in glycerin.
Yeah. I've had people tell me the only thing I didn't like about that movie is I felt like I had to go take a shower afterwards.
Exactly.
And then I explained to them why they.
There's a lot of showers in the movie also, so I just kind of weird. Yeah.
Great.
Kinda weird.
That's amazing. What a classic.